Don't forget to subscribe to all of my channels. If you don't do it, I will come find you and come and brush your stinking mouth for you, huh? How would you like that? Subscribe now.
In this life, if you are not enlightened, then you might as well be dead. All these lights and cameras just flashing, they just flash up. Ain't got no time.
Thank you, my friends, for stopping by to the Embassy Forever 2 vlog. I'm going to take you all on wild journeys in professional wrestling. We're going to talk about entertainment. Prince Nana is going to get down and dirty and talk about all of the news in the world today. So subscribe, leave a comment. Don't forget to keep it positive and always remember, the Embassy Forever. Yeah, today we have a really good episode for you guys here on the Prince Nana show. You know, a lot of the times many fans come up to me because they know my background and they say, hey Prince Nana, how can I become a photographer in the pro wrestling and the sports industry? And you know, it's an answer that I would have to answer with one of my good friends in the wrestling business, someone who I used to look up to many years ago when I was a young photographer starting up at Gleason's Gym in Brooklyn, New York. It was like 1996. I was Johnny Radz's main photographer at the age of 16, taking many pictures, doing the programs, writing the programs, all at the age of 16. And then I was also taking photography over at the Madison Square Garden in New York City. I was doing photography for the WWE on my own, and then I would be submitting it to many magazines, Wrestling World Magazine, Pro Wrestling Illustrated Magazine, and I used to work with the Sterling McFadden group. I used to go ahead and submit many photos with a gentleman by the name of Steve Cicerelli. You know, that's a name from way back in the day. If there's any wrestling publishers and photographers out there that used to submit to him. But you know, when we're talking about how to be successful in that business and be a household name in the pro wrestling sports entertainment business, there's one person that I have to bring on. Someone who, when I was young, I would see from the stands next to the ring, taking photographs at many events throughout the Northeast area, the United States, even for WWE at some times. And that person is none other than my good friend. I'm talking good friend in the wrestling business, none other than pro wrestling photographer extraordinaire, Mr. George Napalitano. George, are you there?
Yes, I am. I am here. And thank you, Prince.
Oh my God, George Napalitano. I'm saying the name right after 20 years, right?
Napalitano. T-A-N-O, Napalitano, but that's perfect.
Okay, good. Paul Napalitano, all right? All right, but you say Tano, I say Tino.
You say whatever you like. You're the Prince.
Oh, please, get out. You still, after all these years, you still don't treat me like a peasant, all right? You are wrestling royalty, my friend.
Well, you got the crown. How am I?
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? You have a crown too, and that's the undisputed, all right, pro wrestling sports photographer of the last 10 centuries. Can you explain yourself?
I have to go back hundreds of years.
No. I know. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's like way back.
Okay. First taking photos, 1970. We're in 20. Wow. We're in 2020. This is now 50 years.
Literally 50 years ago.
Yes, seriously, 50 years ago. Started taking pictures at as a fan, sorta, Madison Square Garden, and then from there I went to Sunnyside Gardens. Used to be a small arena in Queens.
Oh, what? How many people there used to sit in that arena?
It used to be 1,500 to 2,000. It was great
Wow.
because you were intimate, but it used to be full. It was really, really a great, great spot. And early on in the 60s, they also had TV from there. But Sunnyside Gardens is now a Wendy's, I've been told, in Queens Boulevard, 45th
Oh
Street,
yeah,
Queens
I
Boulevard.
actually was there the other day. I had a bunch of like some chicken nuggets, all right. But I couldn't go sit inside because of the quarantine. All right.
Yes.
So they handed it over to my servant that was driving me around. But go ahead.
But that's where I started, actually, in Sunnyside Gardens. I met the Grand Wizard of Wrestling, the Grand Wizard,
Oh my God.
and
Wow.
yeah, he does what you do and you did manage. He managed everybody, and he introduced me to Jimmy Valiant, who was a good
Oh
guy at the
man.
time. Handsome, he was a gentleman Jim. He wasn't even handsome yet, gentleman Jim Valiant, and he was the first photos I take, and Jimmy will tell people his first story was about me, and it really was. The first story I wrote, and it was for Ring magazine.
Wow. Ring magazine. Wow, you just took me way back, man.
Yeah, for Jimmy Valiant, and from there, the Grand Wizard introduced me to Arnold Skolin, who ran many of the spot shows. He was the
Wow.
man in
Arnie.
charge.
That
Yep,
as Johnny Raj would call him,
Arnie.
Arnie.
Yes, Arnie, and he introduced, and the only advice that Arnie told me was, "Hey, have a good time, but stay out of the way of the wrestlers." And that was and that was my
Hey,
motto.
that's the best advice he could have given you, all right?
So I stayed out of the way. I tried to avoid. I did get hit a few times, get fall down a few times, but that's it's going to be expected after so long, you know.
Wow.
And then the Grand Wizard introduced me to Mr. Vince McMahon Sr., who
Wow.
and he told them, this guy's good. He'll do anything we need, and it was because of the Wizard's understanding and pushing me, whatever. That's how I really got involved, and from there I went to see Lou Albano and Fred Blassie and all the old time superstars.
Wow. That's really, really impressive. It's crazy to even fathom that someone like you who has been involved in sports entertainment, pro wrestling, you've touched almost every generation that I don't want to say was the cornerstone or the landmark or the premier of the business, because the wrestling business has been around for how many years? Hundreds of years.
Yeah,
But for it to be like such a mainstream thing in America, you were there in the beginning because Vince McMahon Sr., as I have done my research in the past, was one of the biggest promoters
yeah.
at the time. How old were you at that time?
As you was on, I gave away my age now.
Obviously you were a young man, but the thing that I want to know, all right, is was photography your main focus the whole time,
No,
or
not
were you
not
just
really.
a avid pro wrestling fan?
Well, I was a photographer. I just used to like taking, not even a photographer. I used to like taking pictures. That's how it really started. I like taking pictures. I saw in the paper Wrestling Tonight was in the Daily News. They put those little clippings, and
Right.
I went with my girlfriend at the time, and I've been married now 48 years or so.
Oh, God bless you, man. God bless you.
I
I
went
know
with my
some people married 48 years, but it's like they haven't been married 48 years. I get that.
and I've lived the 48 years in this quarantine the last 3 months.
Oh, you are blessed, my friend.
No, so I went to Madison Square Garden. I brought my camera. This is how it really was, because I like taking pictures, and I put this
Before
long
you go
lens.
forward,
Yeah,
what kind of camera did you have?
I
All
had
right. Was it Nikon? Was it
yes,
it was a
it
Nikon?
was a Nikon, and I put a long lens with a teleconverter, and I took these pictures. And then they announced next week wrestling Sunnyside Gardens, and I turned to her and said, "I used to go to Sunnyside Gardens when I was a kid.
Wow.
It was a Saturday afternoon show, so we went on a Saturday afternoon, and I was running up and down the aisle taking pictures, just running up and down. And
Right.
a fella called me over and says, You must take good pictures. You got a great camera. I said, well, they're okay. I had no idea. I didn't know anything. He says, next time you come here, let me see your pictures. So like, a month later, I went to the garden show and they announced the next date for Sunnyside Gardens. And I brought the set of pictures that I took. And he's looking at me and said, oh, these are really good. I can use these for my
Right,
stories. And he
right.
says, you want to work? You want to work for me? Work for you? What does that mean? He says, oh, you take pictures. So he brought me right downstairs, and that's how it started. He brought me downstairs
And who was
to
that brought you downstairs?
this guy named J.F. Sanchez Acosta. He worked for
Wow,
Ring Magazine. He was a writer, associate editor, Ring Magazine.
wow,
And
wow.
he brought me downstairs to see Arnold Skolin. And Arnold Skolin, I met right down in the Grand Wizard. They were both there together. And the Grand Wizard, then he took me around. Oh, and he says, take him around, introduce him. So the Wizard then brought me to Valiant and Beautiful Barbie and whoever else was there, Pedro Morales.
I could imagine how you felt,
Yeah,
being, brought into the fold,
yeah,
because a lot of people aren't brought into the fold because you know how it is in the wrestling business. It's a very tight brotherhood, all
yeah.
right? There's, certain things that, need to be within. And it always seemed like you had the in the pro wrestling business. And that's why I always tip my hat to you. A lot of these young, pro wrestlers and a lot of these young creative people trying to get into the wrestling business, whether it's to be a creative writer or a photographer or this or that, what avenue, all right? What avenue? I mean, obviously things have changed, all right, from
Yes.
1970
Mhm.
to 2020, okay? A lot of people still love photography just like you, and they love for professional wrestling, all right? And how can one who is a new photographer, all right, in the pro wrestling business, they might even be a wrestler too, who does photography on the side, but how can they stand out, all right, as a photographer in such a very, very right now aggressively hard market to make it into? Obviously, there's social media, there's online. People are making photography with their phones, and
Yeah.
they're making photography with their eyeglasses. They're doing photography with their nose rings. Everything. All right.
Well, you just answered the question. Everybody is a photographer. Everybody thinks they're a photographer, and they do have a
Right.
camera.
They think. They
They,
think.
they have a camera in their pocket, and they walk around and snap, snap, snap. Every girl takes pictures. Everybody is a photographer.
So
So it's
what makes a pro wrestling photographer,
see
which is what you've been.
the difference is now the speed is of the essence. You can take the snap and immediately put it online. Whereas when I really started doing it, whatever I took, you would see it in the magazine 6 weeks later because of all
Right.
the printing process and distribution and everything else involved. It was a whole different ballgame. Now everybody says they're a photographer, and I really don't go to these events as much because people will say, "What are you going to do with the pictures?" And since I don't really have magazine outlets like I did, I have nowhere to do with most of these photos. So I don't really go as I often did.
Right.
But for
So
somebody who wants to still do it, you just
right.
got to take a lot of pictures. You just, and really you are better off with a better camera. And more people have better cameras these days than when I started.
Oh
And
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean the camera selection, it goes from Panasonic all the way to Samsung, all the
yeah,
way back to
Sony and
Nikon
whatever.
and Canon.
Yeah.
It's really really a phenomenal thing because what you said is true. It's about taking many shots,
See,
trying to get the best shot.
see,
and
but
and,
but
and
you can looking back at your camera or look in your phone and you can see if you got the picture right away. I had to wait till the next day or a week later to see if I got it. And a roll
right,
of film had 32 pictures. And we didn't just press the finger, and
right, right,
take
right,
15,000 pictures at an event. At any event, if I took 3 to 5 rolls of film, that was a lot of pictures. That's 100, to a couple hundred pictures.
Okay. Now you're just rambling. All right, you're rambling now. All right, George, I love you, but let's get down to the main question. All
Yes,
right, all right. Did you make money in the in for doing photography in wrestling? All
yes.
right, is it beneficial?
Well, of course. I mean, of course. I used to work for so many different magazines. I was an editor at some point in the 80s, 90s of 9 different magazines.
Wow,
And so, yes, of course. I mean,
wow.
but
So
today,
it's
you ain't going to make that money. It's there's so many people doing it, and if it's online, you're getting pennies on a dollar.
But weren't you a in-house photographer for the WWE, or were you
Okay.
always an independent photographer?
Well,
Huh?
I've been
Come
doing
on,
it.
come on, come on.
I've been doing it so long. Yeah, at some point in the you can go back in the 70s, I used to write the program for Madison Square Garden and all the spots, the WWWF.
Wow.
I was the
I didn't know that.
yeah, the Garden, all those shows, the Garden. I wrote the program, the pamphlet, the 8-page pamphlet with the pictures and stories. I wrote those things for a lot of
Wow.
years. Yeah,
Are any of those in the because obviously you are honorably in the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Did
Mhm.
you submit some of that to the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame or to WWE to put into the Hall of Fame?
See, I'm not in the WWE Hall of Fame. They have their own thing. This is the PW Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in
Right.
Texas.
Oh, okay.
That's in Texas.
It's
And
very prestigious
yeah,
also.
yeah. And to get in, you have to be voted on by your peers. And I'm the only non wrestler in that particular Hall of Fame. Yeah, but they have all these magazines and they have the programs and they have all this stuff. But that's how it
Wow.
started. So at
Wow, that's
that point, I worked, quote unquote, worked for the WWE doing that.
right.
You know,
Oh, during that era. Well, so maybe like around when Vince McMahon Jr. came around. All right, maybe that's when you kind of went back to being a independent
well,
photographer instead of working for the company, or
it
were you still shoot? Because I know I still saw you at all the events from WrestleMania all the way down. All
yeah.
you were
See,
at everything. All right, you
yeah,
were there at
and
the beginning of the shows, then the end of the shows. You were even serving popcorn. I saw you doing. I saw
cleaning the
you.
seats, everything. Yeah. See, but once they really went national, I no longer was able to photograph the matches at the WWEF, whatever it was, when the first WrestleMania started. I was barred along with any other photographers since they wanted to run their own company, have their own magazines, have their own existence.
Oh,
They
I understand. I
and
understand.
that
So,
but what that made it do, it made me go out and cover world class in Mid Atlantic and Florida and Texas and you name it.
right,
I
right,
went and
right.
traveled.
And what like around that time when you weren't really shooting for WWF or
Yes,
WWE, or, were you shoot? That's the like when you were shooting the N. Did you shoot NWA stuff?
yeah.
I know you were shooting well,
I did more. I did more of traveling. That's where I went to.
right?
All the big shows in Sportatorium and wherever it was.
Wow.
I used to go twice a month, make a trip to Texas or Florida. What?
Were you ever bitter of the fact that WWE just like kind of like didn't just cut you up? Because I saw you at some events.
Yeah,
You at some events,
yeah.
they
See,
allowed
but
you to be at ringside,
they
so it
like
wasn't like a bad like, hey,
no.
but business is business,
See, but here's what really happened. They called me back, called me myself and a couple of the other photographers. They called us back because WCW was getting more coverage in the magazines. ECW was getting coverage in the magazines. WWF was
Oh,
getting minimal coverage. So if you looked at a magazine in the I don't know exactly 90s in the 90s or
it had to
so,
be like around 97,
yeah,
98, 99,
when you looked at
like
the
around
magazines
those
at that point, it looked like the WWE was third place. It was behind ECW and WCW.
Right, I'm not gonna lie. The magazines were flooded with WCW and
Yeah,
ECW stuff. They even had ECW even had their own magazine for a
yeah.
while. you know, and it became like a almost like the graphics that were coming out of the other
Yeah.
wrestling organizations was a lot more realistic looking, and I think that's what kind of like
Yeah, so
pulled people
they
to it.
said, well, you can come back and shoot anything you want. And honestly, I said, no, it's okay. Oh, why don't you? And at first I said, it's okay, I don't need to, but of course I relented, and it was great. And then we saw The Rock and Austin and Mike Tyson and all the other Attitude Era went crazy, and
Oh my gosh.
so
You know,
I was back in their good graces at that point, But was I a man? Not really, because I went and I did other things. I didn't.
good, 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 because we can't have George Napolitano walking around mad. All right. Imagine you mad. All right. All right. How many are you? Do you have kids?
Yes, I have two boys.
Oh wow, God bless you. All right. How old they live with you, or
No,
are they living with,
no,
or
they're on their own, and
they're doing their
yeah,
did they
and one lives in L.A. and is a recording engineer producer in L.A. and the other one
oh
lives
that's awesome.
in Parlin, New Jersey, financial planner, but his name is Gregory. He was my photographer for many
Oh
years
really?
when he
Oh,
was.
so when you couldn't do something, he was the
Yes.
one covering
Yeah,
for
but
you. Oh
and
wow.
he took pictures when he started out when he was like 12, 13,
Oh
14, 15. He was taking pictures for me at the events. And
wow.
I used to bring him there, and the Charlie from the front row and Vladimir and all these guys used to watch him. They,
That's something I can imagine it now. You know, a lot of people don't know this, all right? You know, and this is what made me kind of know who you were when I was coming up in the wrestling business as a kid first, when I was, just looking around. Um, you are an author, all right, and with a lot of the work that you've done over the years with NWA and Global and all of these other territorial companies that weren't doing the mainstream stuff, or they were doing it within their markets, you took a lot of these great photography pictures of Dusty Rhodes, pictures of
yeah.
Ric Flair, pictures of the Road Warriors, of the Road Warrior Hockey or Animal. Which one was your best friend for a while? Was it Animal?
It was actually Hawk, and
It was Rock.
Hawk would stay in
Rest in
Brooklyn. He
peace.
loved it. He was at different times. He went to my son's basketball game, football game, hockey game, baseball game,
Wow,
and
that's
yeah,
that's
he would come and he would play with them, practice, and sit in the stands
so.
always.
How many releases did you have of your book of different photography from over the years? Because from
I've
when
had
I was
12.
looking, I know I had one copy.
Yeah,
I had one copy, but I think you had like maybe about 10 books
yeah,
that were
I did.
online.
There were actually 12 books at different times.
Wow.
And the first one came out right before WrestleMania 1. Just happened to be.
Wow.
It was put together, and I did that one with a fellow named Bert Sugar. He was a big boxing guy, Bert Sugar. And he
How
had,
many how many pages were in that book?
they're huge, several, 100, whatever, a couple hundred. Each
And
one.
and Bert Sugar, was he another photographer,
No,
or was he like
he was a
a money
writer,
man?
and he was very big in the boxing world. Everybody knew him, and he had done books before. So the first book was done with Bert Sugar, and then everything else was done by myself
Wow.
afterwards. Yeah.
What was the name of the first book, and then what was the name of the last one that you
The
published, and
first one
what
was
year? What year?
the good, the bad, and the ugly. Professional wrestling. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And then
Wow.
the
And
other
what year
one,
did you release
and
that one?
right before WrestleMania 1. So I would want to say 84.
84.
And it sold so well that Warner put it out in paperback. It sold over 100,000 copies, hardback, coffee table book, and then it came out as a paperback. That first one,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. And then what was your last one?
Hot Shots and High Spots. It's called Hot.
Wow. And that's a good name. When did you release that one?
Oh, that's already 5 years or more ago, at least.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I have to look that one up because I know probably around those times you were probably shooting a lot more of the independent scene.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably have a lot of these new guys that are on TV. Maybe the Samoa Joes, maybe the Loki's, maybe
Yep.
the AJ Styles.
I
I would
was.
like to check that book out.
Yeah, there's a couple in there with TNA and stuff like that when they first started, and a lot of ECW stuff.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. You know, it's crazy because like a lot of people they don't get to really be around these legends, all right? Over the years, you know, with me, growing up in the wrestling business, I was able to be around a lot of the legends because of Johnny Rods. But then after I started to get my career going, I've been in the business now for 26 years. I've been able to be a part of who the new legends are in the wrestling business. You know, Bruno San Martino, all right.
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna give you some names real quick. All right. We're gonna play a quick
Okay.
game. All right. I'm trying not to get you in trouble. All right.
No,
Because
it's
I know.
okay.
All right. I might get in trouble because your last name is Napalitano. All right. You think I don't know? Huh? You think I don't know?
You
All
know.
right.
You know.
Okay. So let's go with the first name. We're gonna do some name associations. I'm gonna give you maybe four names. Bruno San Martino.
My favorite, all-time favorite. First, he was my first favorite as a kid growing up. Italian. I'm Italian. You had to
Right.
like Bruno.
I had the opportunity to meet Bruno San Martino at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City. That was a great,
Yes.
great meeting. And then I think you were there that night also. And then the next time I met him was in his hometown with ROH in
Nice.
Pittsburgh. Yeah, so it was really good to see him. Bret the Hitman Hart.
According to him, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be.
Right. You
Came around during Brett's time, I really wasn't shooting up close and personal the WWE. So I never really got a great friendship with Bret Hart.
Right. I could totally,
That's
totally
why.
understand that. But you know who he is, but you know
Yes,
everything
and his
about him and
family.
his what about his family? Were you shooting anything in
I
Canada
went
at the
once to
time?
Calgary, and I was good friends with Ross Hart and Bruce Hart, and Owen. I was really pretty close with Owen. Owen was really
Wow.
great person.
Wow, rest in peace to Owen Hart.
Yeah.
Rest in peace to him.
Hulk
Hulk
Hogan.
Hogan.
To me, if it wasn't for Hogan, wrestling would not be what it is today. You know, you could say what they
I
want. People
agree.
want to put him down, but he's the one who really put it on the map, brought it mainstream. And it was at that point when Hogan first came out during the beginning of WrestleManias, it was cool to be a wrestling fan. Whereas before that, you never said you were a wrestling fan. You kept it to yourself.
Oh yeah, I definitely remember that growing up as a kid. I mean, even during the Hulk Hogan era, it was really hard to come out and say that I was a wrestling fan. I was like secretly
Yeah.
buying wrestling magazines and like, reading them and like just kind of
Yeah.
enjoying the storylines of what was going on, sharing it with my friends that did watch it. I didn't start talking about it till
Yeah.
probably afterwards. But Hulk Hogan, forget it. Hulk Hogan is probably. I know he's gotten beat like over the last couple of years. He's been getting beat up for things that he allegedly has said and so on and so forth. But Hulk Hogan was the one that really kind of just put the business on
Yeah.
blast, and he put it out there to a level of big
But
entertainment
I have
money.
to
You
give an
can't take that
aside.
away from
If
him.
it wasn't for superstar Billy Graham, Hogan maybe wouldn't have been Hogan either. Hogan took a
Wouldn't have
lot of
been.
stuff.
Yeah, because that's the
Yes.
character.
You know.
That's the character. I always, when I was a kid, because as a kid, it's like you got to remember, it was 1970. I think WrestleMania was
Yes.
1984. You said I was like maybe
Uh-huh.
4 years old or something like that. I would see Hulk Hogan and I would see superstar Billy Graham, and I would think it was the same person or they were brothers or something like that.
Superstar
It's
was
crazy.
colorful. He had
All right,
the 24-inch pythons,
right,
and he was
unbelievable. It
before
was
his
scary.
time. And if it was years later, Hulk Hogan, it would have been superstar leading the way. but not to take
Oh
anything away
yeah.
from Hogan. Like I really say, he was immortal, as they say. You have another one?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I
Mm-hmm.
have one more for you, Mr. Lee
Lee
Wong.
Wong. Oh, funny you say that. Wow. Haven't heard that name in years and years. I used to pick up Lee Wong in Brooklyn at the 36th Street station on 4th Avenue and drive him to the Philadelphia Arena so he can wrestle and do the TV tapes.
Wow, that sounds like the life of a pro wrestler for
I used to
real,
pick
my
him up
friend.
at
Oh
36th
man,
Street, 4th Avenue, and drive him to Philadelphia. I used to go every 3 weeks was TV taping, and Lee Wong was on every TV taping.
wow.
I took him there.
What is he
I have
doing
no
these
idea.
days?
I don't know if he's passed or what, lost touch,
Right, right,
but
right,
yes,
right. Let's
but
hope he's doing good. Let's hope he's doing good. He was like a one of the enhancement. I mean, he was a wrestler, right? He had regular matches. Was he like an
as
enhancement
as they
talent?
call it
What was
today,
his deal?
enhancement talent. Back in the day, he was a job boy.
Oh, okay. A job. Oh yeah, I hate
Yeah,
that word job. I really do because it's like, yeah,
but
you know what I'm saying? It's like it's almost like a
it
letdown or
wasn't.
put down. I like told to
I don't
say,
want to say they knew their place, but there were some quote job boys who then learned and moved on and became really really good.
oh yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And those are the people that have the heart of the heart and the desire to do this and be in this business and withstand the test of time. And you
Yeah,
were one of them. I mean, you did the photography as as a secondary income in the pro wrestling business. You made a living out of it. You know, what did you do mainstream for work? Did you
you
have
ready?
a main
Are you ready for this? I was.
yeah, I'm ready to hear this because I actually thought I almost thought you owned the strip club on what Lincoln Boulevard. All right, I was beginning to think
No,
that.
I'm unfortunately I didn't, but no, I was a school teacher. I taught school for
Wow,
30 years.
wow,
I was a junior high school.
wow! You
Yes,
30 years
and
in
and
school.
uh, very few people knew that I lived two lives. School would end at 2:45. I would get on the train at 36th Street and 4th Avenue in Brooklyn, go right to the city, my office, and then I would do the rest of make calls, write my stories, and do whatever every night. And
Wow,
wrestling would
that's some.
always happen at night. And my real problem was I used to go to Philadelphia, and it would end at 11 o'clock, and I would be home 12, 1:30 in the morning, and then
To
get up in
get
the
up in the
morning because
morning
I
at
was
5.
always shot like I was shot out of a cannon. And
Hey, you know what? We appreciate it. All right, we appreciate it in this wrestling business for over 50 years, almost 50 years, you have contributed some of the greatest photography that I have ever seen. All right. You have shown the growth of the careers of people like Ric Flair, people like Bruno San Martino. All right. You have pictures of every major superstar in this business and on behalf of the wrestling business. All right. All right. I want to take this time. All right. And I hope that once this goes live and so on and so forth, that everyone can enjoy it and look back and respect the lineage that you have brought to the wrestling business
well,
for
thank you
many
very
many
much.
many 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 years. Okay, Mr.
And I'm going
George
to ask you
Napolitano.
to send my best to Johnny Rods, who I knew right from the start, right from day one.
Oh man. Oh man, I love Johnny Raj. He's the man that trusted me to be the first young 15-year-old at Gleason's gym to train with him. He taught me a lot, and I would definitely pass that message on to him. But before I let you go, Mr. George Napolitano, all right? Before I let you go, all right, where can the fans find your books online, all right, to purchase them? Where can they find you to tweet you, to ask you any questions? And where in general can they just find you if they want to, just, know more about George Napolitano
Okay, well,
photography?
we'll start with the books are available through Amazon. At least I was told that yesterday. Somebody just picked up some, and almost all the titles are still available under my name, wrestling, and under George Napolitano or Napolitano, however you want to put it.
Napalitano, all right?
and under Amazon for that. And I stay abreast of Twitter, and it's at
Oh man.
Starshot9. And unfortunately or unfortunately, it seems that everybody knows everything about wrestling. I learned.
On Twitter. Like me, I know everything about everything on Twitter. When you see me post something, take it serious, all right? Take it serious. Me and Donald Trump, all right? Take us serious, my
Yeah, and
friend.
the last one, I usually go to all the big pay-per-views throughout the country, WWE, and anytime there's locally, whether it be in Ridgewood, Queens, where I want to say that TNA was, and MLW, I'm at these local spots. How can you? I
I know
talk,
what you're talking about. You're talking
yeah,
about the
I
one in
talk to
Queens,
everybody,
yes.
whoever wants to talk and know anything. I have no problem. Just ask whatever
Wow,
you want to
well,
know, and if I can answer it, I will.
well, you know what? I just want to again say thank you. Over the years, you've taken great photography of me. One day I'm going to have to come to your house and actually dig and look for
Okay.
them. All right. But you've taken great photography of me and many others in the wrestling business. And we want to say thank you, George Napolitano. Thank you for coming on to the Embassy Forever Tube and talking with Prince
Well,
Nana on
Prince,
the
thank
Prince
you.
Nana
And
show.
Prince, if I can
And
ask, then what's your next endeavor?
oh man, my next endeavor is getting my feet massaged. All right, I'm about to get my feet massaged, and I'm about to get some shrimp cocktail. All right, put down my mouth by one of my lovely
Okay.
sevens. All right, but as for now, I'm just relaxing, my friend. Hey, you never know. All right, it could be this company, it could be that company. You will be one of the first people to know.
Okay. When
Trust
you
me,
do that, if you
George.
go back to ROH, send my best to my friend Carrie.
Absolutely, I definitely will. Thank you so much for coming on to the show, and I
You're welcome,
appreciate
man.
you
Thank you.
coming on, George. Send my regards to your wife
Thank you
and
very
be
much,
well,
man. You
my
too.
friend. Thanks for joining me for another episode. I'll see you later, fools.